Welcome back to the Planning Pulse with me, Stacey Robbins.
And me, Sam Batchelor.
So episode 23 of the Planning Pulse. Episode 22, if you haven't seen it, then do go back and check it out.
It was a new approach to the podcast.
New approach. And
it's gone down.
I don't know how it's gone down.
It's amazing to say it's gone down really well. Everyone loves it. Millions of subscribers.
No, it's definitely not that. I did check the other day, and there was one review on Spotify, and it might have been mine. So anyway, let's move on. So today's episode is going to be much shorter, and it's a sort of punchy update on BNG.
Because BNG and the legislation that sits with it is being updated.
That's right. And
there'll be some tweaks to it from the 6th of August.
It's the 6th of August. Actually, there's quite a few, so I've got some notes here because I want to get it right, of course. So, exactly that. So yeah, as you say, Sam, 6th of August, there are some new rules coming in. As we'll explain in a second, that date is quite important because I've already been asked by a few people that what happens if you've got an existing planning permission that's subject to BNG, maybe with the statutory condition or a version of a BNG condition, could there be an application to remove said condition from the existing consent? And the answer is no, you can't do it, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So let's run through the headline changes. So there's a new site area exemption, isn't there?
That's right, yeah.
So it's 0.2 of a hectare or less is the new exemption. So sites up to that threshold and obviously below are now exempt or will be exempt from BNG. And the regs make it quite clear, don't they, that is a measurement of the whole site within the red line boundary. So it's not simply the development footprint. So we need to make that point clear. I know us planners often talk about site areas and total site area, but just to make that point abundantly clear, definitely not footprint and its whole site area or red line area.
Yeah, and that's not unique to BNG. Lots of things that we deal with are based on site area. It's the most consistent thing you've got in the application, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, we often have conversations about whether or not it should be the actual area being developed out, but yeah, in this instance, it's definitely the red line site boundary.
That's it.
And that's not inconsistent though with the way in which we apply other requirements that are based on site area as well.
So, having said all of that, there's a bit about what we need to update on the priority habitat exception to that site threshold. So the 0.2 of a hectare exemption will not apply where development reduces biodiversity value of a priority habitat on site. Bit of a mouthful. So I suppose the thing to stress is that not all small sites are automatically exempt. So people just need to be alert to that point.
They do, yeah, and that's not new in the grand scheme of BNG either, where other exemptions were originally set. It was always the case that if they impacted on priority habitat, that exemption was removed and they were kind of scoped back into BNG as well. So it's just being consistent with what's always applied, except for the threshold is now 0.2 hectares.
Yep. The de minimis exemption remains, so that's good. So for those that are not familiar, the current exemption remains where development affects less than 25 square metres of on-site habitat or 5 metres of linear habitat, and that stays, so that's unchanged, so that's good. Although not where priority habitat is concerned. We had that site in Hurstmonceux, do you remember? Where
I don't, I'll take your word for it.
Right, there's a new temporary development exemption, isn't there? So do you want to say a little bit about that?
So it'd been mooted as part of the consultation that temporary plan permissions would be excluded, except for it hadn't been defined what temporary meant, and that's what the legislation now sets out, that any planning permission that grants development temporarily for up to 5 years, will now also be exempt from the planning permission. That's good to know. You know, it's always been something that we've had to deal with when we've had inquiries about it, and temporary uses, temporary buildings are not an unusual thing that we deal with in a planning sense. And when you know that the end of a temporary permission is that a site is often restored, needing to do B&G in those instances can come across as a bit odd in some instances, because I suppose ultimately you're deciding after a few years nothing's actually changed. People may have a different view about that, but we're just explaining it, as we see it. But yeah, it being defined as 5 years is helpful, just because there are lots of different types of temporary consents that we can give. So one of the things we've dealt with more recently are plan permissions around solar farms and battery storage sites.
Yeah,
and
albeit long term.
They're temporary, but when those instances we're talking about plan permissions that last 20, 30, 40 years. So it's good to know that those aren't in scope of this kind of exemption. Because, notwithstanding the fact that they then are meant to, be taken away from the site after those long periods, that being such a long period makes it quite obvious that they are quite permanent still, really, and they should enhance.
Don't talk about this being permanent, that's just going to cause confusion. Right, let's move on. Okay, so this is a high profile one. I think the next one is the stuff around custom and self-build exemption.
Yeah.
And it's been removed, hasn't it?
It's been removed, yeah. I mean, will we ever know exactly why? Probably we can glean a little bit from the consultation response, but our own experience, I would say, is based around the fact that it's actually quite difficult to secure, and there's been a lot of inconsistency about how it's secured as well. So
on that form of development, you mean?
On self and custom build schemes, yeah. So the previous exemption was that a self-build or custom build scheme that was minor, so up to 9 units, could be exempt from the B&G requirement. We, as a local authority, have got into the habit of making sure that we control that via condition. Other local authorities had sought to control it with legal agreements. And then we also found that when we were dealing with the planning inspectorate, that they were either requiring that matter to be dealt with by legal agreement, and where it hadn't been, potentially dismissing the appeal on that basis. It just meant that I think there was a bit of inconsistency about how it could apply, how it was being applied, and also create a bit of confusion about what people were meant to do then. So I think it's welcome news that they are no longer exempt. Obviously we do still see the value in people bringing forward self and custom build, and that when people are doing those schemes that they are given certain kind of leeway because of how they're bringing forward development. But because it was becoming quite confusing about how that was practically being delivered, that exemption, it being taken away makes the whole thing simpler. But I think you shouldn't look at these things mutually exclusively, because the fact of the matter is that lots of those minor self-build schemes will probably be
exempt
because of the site exemption. So we'll probably find this an exemption.
Yeah, a lot of the ones that we've dealt with are on those smaller sites, aren't they? So you do get the odd one, or particularly large custom and self-build in a much bigger plot. Yeah, they're going to be cool, I think. Okay.
Which actually links on quite well to the next point, if you're going to talk about minor developments
and straight to off-site provision. Yeah.
So one of the things that we know that those that are developing minor sites have struggled with is actually delivering their B&G on site.
Yeah.
The site's just not big enough to accommodate some of the uplift that might be required, but choosing then to do the B&G off-site has been seen as a conflict, because obviously what we've also got to deal with in terms of B&G is the hierarchy, which for those not too familiar is that you should try and deliver your B&G on site first. If it's not on site, near site, then look at habitat banks or national credits. But for minor,
as a final option.
Some could argue and talk to whether or not the hierarchy is being used effectively. We won't go there. That's not what
today's podcast.
That's not what today's podcast is about. But what the changes to the B&G legislation do is they give equal status to delivering either on-site or purchasing off-site units for those minor schemes. And that's just an acknowledgement of the fact that actually those minor developments actually do struggle to deliver on site. So rather than say there's a conflict with the hierarchy, it's just given those options equal status and gives some flexibility.
Okay, all right. So that's about it, isn't it? It's the long and the short of it. I think the date is key, as we've already set out, 6th of August. So applications already submitted and under consideration. If they're determined after that date, then the new rules will apply at the point of determination. Obviously, those cases that have already got a decision, hinted at that at the top. the statutory BNG condition cannot be removed by a condition variation. So section 73, which is really quite key, that I think is because the statutory BNG condition is not an ordinary planning condition, is it?
It's not, no.
And I think it's, my notes tell me, section 73 brackets 2b expressly says that section 73 cannot be used to authorise the removal of that condition, so you're out, which I think is, I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of, if you're sat on a consent and you've not started and then this exemption bites, it feels like there's something within your grasp, but you're going to have to make a whole new application.
Yeah.
I think there's an argument there that it's a bit disproportionate, but we don't make the rules, we just implement them.
And that's not that unusual in the grand scheme of planning related things. Things change all the time.
Well, yeah, I suppose you.
And when new things get introduced, you have to make a decision about whether or not you're going to, bank and develop under your existing plan permission, or whether you bite the bullet and submit a new one because there's been some kind of change. There's not many instances in which you can tweak things just because the legislation's changed through application.
That's right, I suppose. And that's it, I think, isn't it? Those are the main headlines. Is there anything else to add? Does it think there is?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So a bit of a shorter one today. Don't forget the Ask the Development Manager option. Even though we promoted that last week or last podcast,
I haven't had any questions.
No questions. So do please use that link because it does build up a library of responses, which we can point other people to. And
we know, just because of other avenues in which people ask us, there are things that you're interested in terms of how development comes forward in the district, and we can help answer those if we're asked via that platform.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Brilliant.
See you soon.